This week on Christian World News, the end of an Armenian Republic in Azerbaijan. Tens of thousands of people are leaving Nagorno-Karabakh. One leader says a genocide is already underway.
Plus, destination safe haven. With refugees fleeing hotspots across the globe, see how North Dakota is opening its arms to give them a new start.
And the digital outreach, from ads for local churches to multi-million-dollar spots during the Super Bowl, using the latest technology to connect people of faith. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Christian World News. I'm George Thomas.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. An Armenian Republic conquered by Azerbaijan will cease to exist.
The leader of Nagorno-Karabakh signed an agreement to dissolve the government on January 1st. The decision follows the region's takeover by Azerbaijan forces. Several government leaders have surrendered or been arrested by the Azerbaijani government. Fearing a genocide, at least 80,000 people, more than half the population, have already fled to Armenia.
It was a nightmare. There are no words to describe. The village was heavily shelled. Almost no one is left in the village. Most people have been evacuated.
The Blitz attack forcing nearly 14,000 refugees to cross into Armenia, with thousands more stuck in massive traffic jams at the only checkpoint crossing. Nagorno-Karabakh is a landlocked region between Azerbaijan and Armenia.
This is an area of Armenia, Nagorno-Karabakh, that has been contested for many years. It has historically been filled with Armenians, Armenian cultures, the Christian faith.
While it's been internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan, the area has been ruled by ethnic Armenians for 3 decades. 2 U.S. officials traveled to the region and met with Armenia's Prime Minister Monday. He told them ethnic cleansing is happening right now. Armenians are some of the first people in the world to embrace Christianity. Now there's concern their religious and ethnic history in Nagorno-Karabakh could be wiped out.
The exodus of Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh continues as a result of Azerbaijan's ethnic cleansing policy. Analysis show that in the coming days, there will be no more Armenians left in Nagorno-Karabakh. This is a direct act of ethnic cleansing and deprivation of a homeland, as we have been telling the international community for a long time.
CBN contributor Chuck Holton, who has reported extensively from Armenia, warns Azerbaijan's ambitions don't stop at Nagorno-Karabakh's borders.
The real concern here is that Azerbaijan is not going to stop by just taking over this one exclave. They're literally talking about taking all of Armenia.
Joining us now is Joel Veldkamp of Christian Solidarity International. Joel, what's happening to those Armenians who are still in Nagorno-Karabakh?
Steve, as far as we know, everyone who can leave is leaving right now. I talked to an Armenian friend of mine who's in the capital city of Nagorno-Karabakh yesterday, and he told me that the only people he could see in the streets were very, very elderly people and people with perhaps mental illnesses. Whatever Armenians do stay behind will essentially be hostages to the Aliyev regime of Azerbaijan, one of the worst dictatorships in the world, and we have grave fears for their safety.
Describe for us just how big is this refugee crisis?
It's enormous. The population of Armenia has increased 4% in 1 week because of this. 90,000 people have now left Nagorno-Karabakh for Armenia. The 30,000 remaining almost certainly will in the coming few days. Armenia is not a rich country by any means. This is going to be an enormous refugee crisis, an enormous challenge for all the aid organizations working to help these people.
You mentioned they're escaping. Who's taking care of the refugees, or are they just fending for themselves?
Many of them are fending for themselves. Many of them we've seen are sleeping in their cars, or sleeping in tents, or sleeping in the streets of the city of Goris, which is close to Nagorno-Karabakh in Armenia. The European Union has pledged 500,000 euros to help the refugees. That's about $4 per person, roughly. The U.S. came in slightly better with 11.5 million. But this is not anywhere near to covering the needs that these people are going to have.
Joel, you guys have been monitoring the situation very closely. The international community knew that Nagorno-Karabakh was, in essence, isolated. There was a blockade since January, and the international community didn't do anything. And now we have this situation. What can the international community do? Should there be sanctions against Azerbaijan?
There absolutely should be sanctions against some of the leadership in Azerbaijan, the president and some of the officials in the government who orchestrated this ethnic cleansing of Nagorno-Karabakh. There should also be firm measures taken to defend the territorial integrity of Armenia. As you said just now, Armenia itself is probably the next target for Turkey and Azerbaijan. So we're very concerned about this.
What can the global church do to help these refugees?
A lot of Armenians right now are very upset because, as you said, this blockade lasted for 9 months and they were crying out for help during these 9 months. And it seemed like the global church really didn't listen. But it's never too late to do the right thing. People should link up. They should find organizations that are working to help these refugees. Christian Solidarity International is doing that. The Armenian Red Cross is doing that. Armenian Caritas is doing that. It's time for the global church to remember the Armenians, make connections with them, make relationships with them, and come alongside them in this very, very dark hour.
Joel, in the meantime, how can we pray for these refugees?
Please pray that they'll find shelter. Please pray that the wounded will get the medical care that they need. Some people are driving 30 hours to get out of Nagorno-Karabakh because there are just so many cars, and some people are actually dying on the way for lack of medicine, for lack of water. So please pray that people just make that journey safely.
Amen. Jesus help. And I feel like our viewers have just agreed with you for that important prayer. Joel Veldkamp of Christian Solidarity International, thanks so much for joining us. God bless.
Thank you.
Coming up, a safe haven in the Peace Garden State. How and why one Midwestern destination is opening its arms to war-torn refugees. Welcome back to Christian World News. 1 in 7 Christians worldwide now face persecution. That's the headline in a new report from World Relief and Open Doors USA. It also notes a drop in refugees allowed to settle in the U.S. The report calls on U.S. leaders to, quote, stand by our nation's commitment to religious freedom and become a, quote, safe haven for persecuted religious communities.
North Dakota is now home to refugees from the wars in Afghanistan and Ukraine. And overall, they've been welcomed with open arms. Mark Martin shows us how the community of Fargo has embraced those forced to flee their homes.
August 2021, the United States pulls remaining troops from Afghanistan, resulting in chaos, plus the deaths of 13 American service members and around 170 Afghan civilians. It also strands U.S. allies in a hostile country ruled by the Taliban. CBN News met one of those allies living as a refugee in Fargo, North Dakota. For safety, Abdul wants to remain anonymous. Serving as an interpreter for the U.S. military, his first attempts to evacuate Kabul came up short.
I came back home, so the family told me just stay home, don't go outside, because the neighbors and the people in the area, they know where you've been working and who you've been working. We don't feel about yourself, like about your life and your security.
Eventually, the U.S. military found a flight for him at another airport. Staying in Afghanistan could have cost him his life.
We're hearing every day like the Taliban or the people who running the government right now, they killing the Afghan forces whenever they find about them, like especially the commandos and Afghan special forces. They could do same thing with me or even with my family.
His family, unfortunately, did not make it out.
Actually, yeah, it was too hard for me. Even I couldn't say them goodbye or give them a hug. So it was pretty hard for me to leave those people who I love them or they love me, like my family.
After spending a few weeks in the Middle East, Abdul ended up in the U.S., where he says North Dakota offered the best opportunity.
It was super amazing for me. When I came to the airport here, that was the winter time. everywhere was snow. Those people from the community, they are very good people. They told me like a best welcome to North Dakota, Fargo.
The Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service helped make it possible.
I remember the first Afghan family that arrived in 2021. A husband who had already been here for a period of time welcomed his family, I believe, of 5. And when he and his wife embraced, after having been separated for a significant amount of time, it brought tears to my eyes and my colleagues' eyes. In fact, one of my staffers turned to me and nudged me and said, "This is why we do this work."
Hanaher helped form the North Dakota office of Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service in March of 2021. Since that time, they've helped around 500 refugees. While Hanaher has seen some resistance, he adds overall the community is very welcoming.
I'm very grateful for the outpouring of support and love from our community. There are always detractors. There are those who fear the unknown or simply have a different thought process around how they feel about these issues.
Other refugees now calling North Dakota their home escaped Russia's war on Ukraine. Sergei Listratenko, his wife Natalia, and their daughter Kira lived in the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv.
We saw burning tanks, burning cars. A lot of people died, but a lot of people, our military forces evacuated a lot of people.
The family evacuated to western Ukraine, and after 6 months, they decided Natalia and Kira should head to the U.S. Sergei stayed behind to help in the war effort. At one point, he feared never seeing his wife and daughter again.
When I moved back to Kharkiv, almost every day, Russians launched rockets. It continues every day for half a year while I was in Kharkiv. Sure, I thought that I could never see them.
7 months passed, and Sergei decided to join his family in the U.S. A friend recommended Fargo, and they settled here, preferring the colder climate, much like Ukraine. Although he was overjoyed to see them again, leaving his homeland was bittersweet.
You need to understand that I left my parents, my mom, my dad, my brother and my nephews, and they're still in Ukraine.
Government statistics show more than 400,000 Ukrainian refugees, along with approximately 100,000 from Afghanistan, have come to the United States since those major events in their countries. Both Abdul and Sergei request prayer for the many more left behind.
I want to ask for the people to pray for the people of Afghanistan. Also, I wanted the international community to force on the Taliban to reopen the schools and university and let the girls and the female to go to and continue their education.
They shouldn't pray for us because we are in a safe place. So they should pray about our brave warriors that defending protecting our land.
And that safe place for these refugees now is North Dakota. Mark Martin, CBN News, Fargo.
Story, thanks, Mark. Coming up, with church attendance on the decline here in the U.S., we'll look at how one organization is using the latest technology to connect people of faith.
Welcome back to Christian World News. Church attendance continues to drop here in America. 1 in 5 Christians attend less often than before the pandemic.
To change this trend, a modern-day marketing tool is being used to revolutionize church outreach. CBN's Brody Carter brings us the story.
The numbers tell the story. Even before COVID closed doors, membership in America's houses of worship were headed below 50%. For the first time in the 80 years Gallup had tracked that trend. From just before the pandemic through last year, overall church attendance dropped 3% over those 3 years. In looking at the why, the Pew Research Center found the problems inflamed by COVID, with 1 in 5 Americans reporting they attend church in person less often than before the pandemic.
The new trend that we're seeing is people have moved or they disconnected from their local church during the pandemic, and they're ready to reconnect back into their faith community.
And Glue, a ministry platform, is building on that trend by working behind the scenes online to help people connect with a church.
And so we make it possible for individuals who are curious and seeking to be able to connect into a local church and a local conversation.
If you've ever wondered why you randomly get online ads for mental health support, marriage help, or dating sites, it's because your search activity isn't a secret. In fact, it can be a goldmine for companies like Glue that are paid to connect you with people who can help.
About 1.8 million individuals that search for relationship help.
That's the top trend Glue sees in research. I did a follow-up interview with Glue on how it's using that data to perfect its marketing strategy.
And just like any advertiser can purchase sponsored ads or do SEO optimization, so that they're showing up in that search results. That's one of the strategies that our outreach partners are using.
Executive Director Devin Klein sees the company as an online connection engine.
So it's really not taking big data. It really is just being a part of the results that get returned back when somebody is searching for help online.
Klein specializes in connecting you, the explorer, with local churches and companies that Glue calls responders. And church responders pay from $1,500 to almost $4,000 each year to fill empty church seats.
And we have 23,000 organizations who are using our tools. And so a subset of that are 6,300 churches who have registered and said, I would love to connect with people in my community.
Glue started in 2010 and recently found its stride, connecting 150,000 people with churches nationwide in just 2 years.
The 150,000 plus individuals are getting help. And right now we're matching somebody every 2.5 minutes. And so that means every 2.5 minutes, a church is getting introduced to somebody in their community that may not have thought about walking through their church doors.
Kelsey got it! Touchdown!
You've likely heard of Glue's largest partner, He Gets Us, which made its debut at the Super Bowl airing 2 commercials, part of a $100 million ad campaign aimed at making Jesus more relatable.
So we're talking about Jesus, yes, but Jesus doesn't need rebranding.
Jordan Carson, spokesperson for He Gets Us.
We really have 2 goals, and one is to reintroduce people to Jesus and his confounding love, and the second is really to call upon Christians and have them self-reflect on the way that they're treating others.
Other major partners include Churches Care and K-Love Radio. While Glue and its partners' primary motive is converting people to Christianity, the marketing tension between selling and converting raises questions about using marketing strategies to promote Jesus for profit.
Yes, sometimes it can represent those tithe dollars, but most of the time churches are not joining Glue and participating with that motivation.
However, congregations are reaping benefits.
We've had over 500 people that we've been in connection with in the last 18 months.
Greg Reed with Christ Fellowship Church in Florida says this digital outreach makes it easier to share the gospel.
It just gave us a different view of what evangelism looked like. And I think what Glue's helped us is like, how do we reach those people who they're not going to look for a church? They're not going to go online and look for a sermon. They're just on social media and they're searching for something. They don't know what it was.
Participating churches can expect about 12 new connections per month. As these digital campaigns succeed, you can expect to see more outreach that expands beyond the web to public venues, including professional sporting events and music festivals alike. Klein says pastors and churches often become disconnected from their own community. Now a number of churches are thanking Glue for helping them get back to building stronger relationships with people who walk through their front doors. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Finally, this week, in today's economy, families are struggling to keep up with growing costs. It's especially difficult for single moms struggling to keep an older car on the road.
CBN's Charlene Aaron shows us how one Texas ministry is making a big difference.
God's Garage, a Christ-centered nonprofit, provides reliable transportation to single mothers, widows, and spouses of deployed military. It also helps empower these women by offering special training and sharing the good news of Jesus.
We receive over 200 applications per month of women in need of a vehicle.
The mission of God's Garage is simple: repair and gift vehicles to those struggling throughout the greater Houston area.
It's hard times. Vehicle prices are up. The way we meet those needs is by receiving donated vehicles from the public And those donated vehicles come into our shop, and we spend time, hours, money, everything that's needed to get those vehicles up and running. And then our job is to turn around and give those vehicles away to a much needed single mom.
During an appearance on CBN's Prayer Link, Executive Director Justin Coggins shared how it all started.
Our founder actually was a pastor, and he loved tinkering with cars and working on vehicles. There happened to be a single mom walking on a very, very busy roadway here in Conroe, Texas. And it happened to be in the evening. He stops by, finds out why is she walking on this road at this time of day in such heavy traffic. And come to find out, the single mom actually had a vehicle. It was in a shop, but she could not afford to get it out. And they were able to work on it and get that vehicle fixed. And right then and there, that's where single mom started a role in God's garage.
The impact has been life-changing.
Having these vehicles in a single mom or a widow's hand brings consistency back to their life. It helps them get their kids to school on time, on a daily basis. It helps them get to the grocery store when they want to get there. It helps them get the doctor's appointments. It helps them in multiple ways.
Ways proven to be rewarding for all involved.
Last year, we gave away 94 vehicles. The year before that, around 95, 96 vehicles. And so every single one of them is heart-moving. It'll bring you to tears because of the struggle.
To help with that struggle, the ministry also provides life skills training for budgeting, meal planning, single parenting, and job pursuit like interviews. Spiritual needs are also addressed through an outreach called Restore You.
We present the gospel and give every single lady an opportunity to accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. We're seeing 25 to 30% of the ladies accept Jesus Christ for the first time.
All part of the mission of restoring lives, one ride at a time. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
That's awesome, guys. Thanks for helping those single moms.
God's garage.
Yes.
I love it.
Folks, that's it for this week's edition of Christian World News.
Until next week. Did you lose your voice there? Goodbye. Pray for George. And as always, God bless you.